everyone. Stay Home, Stay Connected is excited to welcome Katy Gladwin with us today. Katy is a doula in the Ann Arbor and Ypsilanti areas. She's going to be talking to us about the importance of doula care before, during, and after birth. So enjoy.
All right. Hi, Annie, and hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. So I am Katy Gladwin. I am a birth doula here in Ann Arbor and Ypsi. I work almost primarily at the University of Michigan, working with the midwives and the obstetricians there, supporting people giving birth. I'm also a childbirth educator. I teach in Ann Arbor through Ypsi Arbor Childbirth Education. And I'm also an integrative women's health coach. So I also support women as they are working their way through health challenges in all sorts of different capacities, but specifically around the childbearing year. Hormone issues or fatigue, fertility, that kind of thing. So, all right. So as I said, these are my titles. I'm a birth doula, childbirth educator, integrative women's health coach. You are welcome to, any one of you, if you have further questions, you're welcome to reach out to me at katy@katygladwin.com, and I'd be happy to answer any additional questions that you have. So this is how we're going to lay things out today. So we're going to talk about a doula's role in preparing for your labor. We're going to talk about how they support you in the birth room, and then we're going to hit a little bit on the support they offer in the postpartum time. This talk is specifically about birth doulas. There are also postpartum doulas. There are full spectrum doulas that work with women all the way from pre-pregnancy, if they need or desire an abortion, all the way through to bereavement doulas, as well as death doulas that work with hospice services. So today we are talking about birth doulas and that window of time that they care for families. We're going to talk about what an interview or initial consult looks like. So once you find some doulas that you might like, what then would you expect to need to do to find the one that's perfect for you. We'll talk about how we include partners in the preparation and the birth. We'll talk about what the prenatal visits include and what those look like and all of the good work that we do before labor happens. And then how this is all translated into an informed birth experience. Because we want to leave you, when we're done with our relationship with you, we want you to feel like an empowered and powerful parent, ready to go on into this new adventure, feeling like you know what you're doing, and that you know, and when you don't know what you're doing, who and where you can look for help. All right. So first thing, I want to tell you what a doula is not. So a doula is not a medical professional. We do not make diagnoses. We do not treat or even recommend treatments. So what we can do is we can offer lots of evidence-based information on diagnoses that you might have received. We can tell you what our other clients might have done as some different options. And we can offer you lots of really good, powerful questions to take back to your care provider so that you can make sure that when you're coming back to them with yay or nay on different treatment options, that you are really leaving the conversation with the best information and feeling like that decision you made is best for you and your family. We're not allowed to perform medical tasks. So at no time during your pregnancy, labor, or birth will we do things like check your blood pressure. Would we do things like take a look at your labs and determine whether those are good or bad or safe or unsafe, etc. And then a doula is also not invested in any certain outcome. So a doula is not just for somebody who desires to have a medication-free birth. Your doula should want to support you in whatever birth you are hoping to have. So for some people, that might be an unmedicated birth. And often that tends to be a lot of our clientele, is that they're looking for support to help them through so that they can avoid that epidural. But we get lots of clients who also are like, I think that I might want an epidural and I don't want to miss my window, or I don't want to, I want somebody to advocate for me to get that epidural. And that can be a role that the doula plays as well. And that would be some work that you would do ahead of time with their doula to make sure that they are in line and that they don't have any negative feelings about supporting a woman if she chose a medical option or an interventive option. So these are the things that a doula is not. So what does a doula do? A doula provides physical, emotional, and informational support for the birthing person and their partner. So that's a lot of stuff. Physical support looks different for every single client. They offer supporting a calm environment, right? So whether that's keeping the lights low or bringing soothing, encouraging soothing smells in the space, or adding twinkly lights to your birth room, or even just reminding care providers as they walk into the room that this is a calm room for birthing people. During prenatal visits, we would talk about why that calm environment is actually important for allowing a body to birth a baby, because the hormones at play in a labor do prefer dark, warm, safe, and quiet. So the doula would encourage that environment as her client wished. They also can provide soothing touch in the forms of gentle massage or hand holding, foot rubs, whatever the client thinks feels good. They can also help with nourishment, making sure that the laboring person is hydrated and have enough calories in their body to do the hard work of labor. And then they can provide helpful suggestions in terms of comfort measures. So comfort measures would be something that you would learn about in childbirth ed. Most likely in childbirth ed class, there are lots and lots of books about all of this. But these would be things like hip squeezes, or encouraging you to get into the tub or the shower, or knowing when the right time for pulling out the nitrous or the epidural would be. You also get as long as the powers that be are allowing doulas into the hospital. So sidebar, because of COVID-19, for the last 3 months, doulas have not been allowed in the hospital. And starting in the second week of June, we were allowed back in as the second support person for laboring people. So as long as that continues, you can have a doula in your labor room. I was providing Zoom services, so obviously the physical piece was more of a helping the partner to provide that physical piece, since I wasn't able to do it myself. But often the plan is for doulas to join you whenever you feel you need support, physical support, and then helping you stay home as long as possible, if that's your goal, and then being with you through the birth until the first 1 to 2 hours after birth. That's usually a pretty organic process where the parents are just lovingly eyeing their baby, and the staff have left the room, and all of a sudden the doula is just standing there and looking at them, and they're not doing anything anymore. And so you don't need any more people just watching you. So I will just slowly back out and check in on them later in the day via phone. They also provide emotional support. So this is, you can step in and have never met the person before and offer emotional support in terms of encouragement or positive outlook. But we also work with pregnant women during the prenatal period, talking about what their fears might be, where they might feel self-doubt creeping in, and helping them then work through those in labor or beforehand if possible. Then informational support. Most of this comes in the prenatal time. So teaching coping techniques, but then also helping to decide when to go to the hospital. We find lots of evidence-based resources about options during pregnancy and birth. So coping techniques might involve things like breathing, movement, positioning. We know that staying home as long as possible or as long as is safe is really a powerful way of reducing interventions. If you aren't at the hospital, then there aren't any interventions to be had. But also, if you are a low-risk person, then staying at home for as long as possible can also help labor feel like it's moving faster as well. So helping people stay home as long as possible is often a really big part of my job. It can be one of the main reasons that people hire me, is that they're worried that they're going to show up too soon and then they're going to get sent home. And so I can help by having been to many, many labors and knowing what generally labors can look like, to help reassure people that they are still safe to stay home, or no, it is probably safe and time to head into the hospital. We'll also talk in prenatal visits about all of the medical options that are there for you at the hospital, and kind of break those all down into general risks and benefits story, so that if you come and are presented with that as an option in labor, you don't have to do all of your research and education right then. You already have a general idea of how that feels to you. And then with the new information that's being presented to you by your care team, where do you go from there that feels really best to you? All right. And then of course, supporting partners, which I totally missed in the emotional piece, but we always are supporting the partners as well to keep them feeling safe and grounded so that they can be the laboring person's best support person. And then advocacy. Doulas are also very often advocates for their clients. So what does advocacy look like? So in terms of a doula, advocacy looks like deferring to the client in all things and making sure that they are heard. So we ask the birthing person what they want. So in any situation, during prenatal visits, during labor, when a care provider comes in with a little twist in the plan, we turn to the birthing person and we say, how does this make you feel? What would you like to do? And make sure that they are heard. We encourage questions and make sure that the responses are clear and that everybody understands them. We also want to make sure that the client's wishes are clear and the care team is hearing their preferences. Again, we support the client's wishes above all. We will amplify the birthing person if she is being dismissed, ignored, or not heard. This is a really important piece. I absolutely trust that in labor, you will be able to make really well and sound decisions. And also, labor is a really big time for you to be in your body and doing the really hard work of moving a baby through your body. And so sometimes it can be hard to speak up, or it can be difficult to put up any sort of dissent to a plan of action. And so making sure that even if you are over there like, I don't want to do that, then I, as the doula, can say, she has some concerns. Can we pause for a moment? So we can have this conversation a little bit more drawn out in between contractions so that she can stay in her bubble of labor. And so in doing that, we're creating this space and time for the birthing family so that they can voice their concerns so they can gather their information and they can make decisions without feeling pressured and make decisions feeling like they were with all of the best information at that time. So in that facilitating communication between parents and care providers, obviously, I am one of the doulas who will come in and say, you know, a new care provider will walk in and I walk up to them and I shake their hand if we're allowed to shake hands. And, you know, hi, I'm Katy, I'm the doula. I'm very excited to work with you so that we can provide the best support for XYZ. Today, here's her birth plan that she wrote herself. I am just here to help make sure that all of this goes as much to her vision as possible. Thanks for helping with that. And I'm not afraid to, you know, talk to the care providers. We're all on a team together. So, and then beforehand, we'll teach positive communication techniques as well. Hopefully you have a care provider who you feel really heard and all of this stuff isn't necessary. But we often say that, you know, you're hiring a doula for that situation where you need the doula. Hopefully your doula sits on their hands in the back of the room and everything goes beautifully and the doula doesn't need to do anything because laboring person and the partner and the care provider and the nurse and everybody is just meshing beautifully and labor is going like a textbook. And you say, thank you, doula, for being here just in case. Goodbye. And she hasn't done anything. But labor is a bunch of twists and turns, and you don't know who your care providers might be. And if they've never met you before, they might have a hard time connecting with you in the way that you were hoping to be connected with. And so having somebody there to just kind of mediate can be really helpful. So if you are thinking about wanting a doula, what would finding one even look like? So your midwife or OB at U of M, I know, has a list of care providers that they offer. And I'm pretty sure, because I think I'm on it. And if not, then just Google doulas near me or doulas near your city, because that is, if you don't live in Ann Arbor or Ypsilanti, having a doula that lives closer to you might actually be more beneficial. So having a doula in your city so that they can come to your home to help you stay home as long as possible, rather than necessarily living close to the hospital. They will travel. You can also ask friends who they used, ask your care provider if they have any favorites. And then once you do, you want to check out several sites and you want to get a feel for what doulas feel like your type of people. And then pick more than one to interview. So right now, lots of people are doing all their interviews via Zoom. I am one of them, which allows you could interview 3 doulas back to back in the course of 3 hours. It doesn't have to be this, like before it was meeting at coffee shops or meeting at offices. And so now it can be quite efficient to interview more than one. But remember, this is less about the experience of the doula. It's less about how many births have they been to, although obviously being to some births is an important piece of the education that they get. But every doula has been through a training. Every doula has sat through at least 16 to 20 hours of intensive training around what normal birth looks like and how they can support that. So, and by normal, I mean all of the different versions of normal. So whether that's a long, drawn-out natural birth, all the way through to C-sections and epidurals, and kind of what the realm of birth in our climate looks like. And every doula will have a different skill set. They will come in with different life experiences. Some are massage therapists as well. Some are RNs as well. Some are home birth midwives as well. So you might get, there's a vast array of the skill sets behind the doulas as well. Some are data entry techs, right? So, what is the type of brain that you want in the doula that you hire? And really make sure that the feel with your doula feels really good. So doulas also vary broadly in cost. So newer doulas are charging in the $300 to $800 realm, and then more experienced doulas you might get all the way up to $1,500. But really make sure that you feel really good with them. This person is going to be present at this very intimate time of your life, and you need to feel comfortable with them. We kind of say, if you don't feel comfortable with anybody that you've invited into your birth seeing you poop, then they're not probably a safe person to be at your birth. Not because you necessarily will poop when you give birth, though you probably will, but because if you didn't want them in the bathroom with you right now while you were pooping, then they're probably not. Then this is going to be an even more intimate situation at your birth. So the feel of your doula during that interview process needs to feel really good and safe. And that is more important than the experience or skill set that they have, because they will learn for you if they don't have all the knowledge yet. All right, so once you've found your doula, or once you have found some doulas, you're gonna go into your interview or initial consult. I call these an initial consult because I do give out a lot of free information during these interviews. But it's also really just a way of getting to know people. So come prepared with your questions. So I have a link here that I will share with Annie once I stop sharing my screen, or I'll share with you once I stop sharing my screen, to a list of really great questions to bring to your interview of your doula. But some examples might be, what is your philosophy about birth? Why did you become a doula? And what do you love most about being a doula? What is your care relationship like with my institution that I'm planning to give birth at? How do you interact with hospital staff? What techniques or special skills do you have that you use at births on a regular basis? Do you have any references, right? And then, of course, always asking, what is your full fee and what does that include? Other questions people have are, can you join me at my house before we go to the hospital? Or do you only meet me at the hospital? Or what happens if I give birth before you get there, right? So making sure you know the answers to all of those questions is going to be important. And then this is your time to really, just chat and get to know them a little bit better, because the feeling you get in this meeting matters a whole lot. So prenatal visits. So once you found your doula and you're feeling really good, you're going to start getting into, most likely you'll have unlimited access to them via phone, text, email from the time of hire. During scheduled prenatal visits, though, they'll usually have some sort of layout that they like to follow to make sure that they hit on all the things they want you to know, or at least to ask you about, whether you want to know it or not. They're going to listen to your hopes and the vision for your birth. They're going to listen to and then hopefully spend some time calming your fears and concerns around birth, hospitals, and the stories that you've been told. In the culture we live in, birth can be really scary. So I give you permission as a doula today to, if people say, oh, you're pregnant, let me tell you about my horror birth story, I give you permission to say, you know what? I'm only accepting beautiful, lovely birth stories right now. I will talk to you 2 months after this baby is born, and we can share birth stories back and forth. But I'm only accepting good stories in right now because my birth is going to be beautiful and not traumatic and well cared for. So there. You're welcome. Please take care of your own heart in this as you're going through pregnancy as much as you can. And because the stories that we tell ourselves and the stories that we hear do make a difference. So we'll work towards calming those fears. Oftentimes what just needs to happen is a lot of normalizing needs to happen. People tell you scary things, and then we can often break it down to be like, well, this is likely what happened, and this is maybe something that could have been done to mitigate that. Would you like to talk more about that or get some evidence, some research and evidence-based materials around that so we can avoid that for you? Obviously, we'll share evidence-based information on pregnancy and birth, answer any questions that you have. There's often a brief childbirth education piece. Usually this is in the form of clarifying your childbirth education class that you took, because your doula prenatal visits is not a replacement for childbirth ed, because in your prenatals, there's a limited amount of time, and the goal is to talk about you, not about birth in general necessarily. It's really just to talk about your needs, and taking care of you and your whole being. And then there will be a refresher again of what to expect during your labor and birth, as well as in that postpartum time and the hospital, in that 24 to 48 hours after birth, and then back home. All right, so what we'll talk about in continuing what we talk about in prenatal visits. Well, then this can be a big bulk of this time. Oftentimes this is the last visit that I spend with my clients, and you're probably around 36, 37 weeks, and we're having a discussion about, because you've learned all your coping techniques at your childbirth ed class, and we're having a discussion about how you would like to be supported in labor. So what does advocacy look like for you? How would you like your voice amplified? How would you like information relayed to you? How would you like your labor bubble to be guarded? And so that the doula can kind of fill in where you feel you would be best supported. What physical touch do you think would feel good or bad? So if you are somebody who loves foot massages, then that would be good to know, because we can easily start to relax you by giving you a good foot massage when you're in labor. Then some people are like, do not touch my feet at any cost. And so that is good to know as well, so that your doula can support you without triggering you. And also, if you do have any sort of history with physical touch, then that is also good to know, so that your doula can be very careful to not put you into a state of alert and alarm. Also, do you have any visualizations, mantras that you'd like to use, and how can your doula encourage that? So sometimes I'll have clients who will print out a bunch of pictures that make them just really happy, that make oxytocin flow. Or they'll have a guided meditation visualization that they'll have in their headphones and that they're listening to throughout their labor. And so what can your doula do to encourage that? And then we also spend time talking about a birth plan preparation. This is a service that I offer for anybody. You don't have to be my doula client to work on a birth plan. So it's about an hour, it's usually around an hour long, where you come with a very rough draft of a birth plan, and any questions that you might have on the options that you have learned about during your birth plan preparation. And then by the end of it, we hopefully have a really lovely one-ish page birth plan that you can then take back to your care provider for them to scan into your chart. All right. So partners in birth. A doula should not replace your partner. If you have a partner, whether that is the other parent of your child or a best friend or a sister or whoever is, your mother, whoever is going to be your primary birth partner, the doula is not there to replace them unless that is what they are being hired to do. I am hired sometimes to be the primary birth partner, but that is very specific, and we talk about that ahead of time, because the other parent is either not around, or they are squeamish, or they need to be home with the other children, right? So whatever that kind of reason might be, the doula does not by default take the primary partner role. They, like I said before, hopefully the doula can just sit with their hand, sit on their hands in the corner and be listening and present during that time, but they don't necessarily expect to be right in the forefront of birth. This is your story. This is your experience, and the doula just wants to fill in the gaps. So they'll listen to how your partner expects that they can be helpful as well, and how does that mesh with your birth vision, and then what can the doula do to make sure that happens. And then the doula can support your partner by providing the same emotional and informational support they might offer the birthing person. So oftentimes the emotional piece is really just about maintaining a calm face. So labor can look really big and something that your partner has never seen before. And so when they can look over to somebody who is calm and smiling, that reassures them that nothing is wrong. If something is wrong, you will see it on my face, and I will make sure that we're calling care providers in if I think something's wrong. But if it looks like it's normal labor and everybody is actually doing okay, even though it looks like it's really big, hard work, then that can be really reassuring to the partner to just know, okay, Katie's not freaking out. So I will also pay attention to my face and have a calm face so that the birthing person can stay calm as well, right? Because they're picking up on the energies from the room. And then the doula can provide, right, the sense of calm when there are unknowns. So answering any questions that the partner might have. I spend a decent amount of time asking partners if they have any more questions on the side, just to make sure that they feel like they're in the know and that they understand what is going on. Right. So an empowered birth, that's the goal. So having these conversations with your doula and then your care providers prepares you for the decisions you may come across while in labor. That's the goal. You and your doula will come up with strategies for the potential shifting plans that happen through birth. You'll have discussions ahead of time about how labor unfolds, what labor looks like, what are kind of some benchmarks of labor, and how that emotional landscape shifts as your body is changing so that those moments are less shocking. For instance, there is a time, usually around 5 centimeters or so, as you're getting into the big, heavy work of active labor, where your body starts producing endorphins, which kind of make you a little foggy and fuzzy and morph time, where you see this really big demeanor shift in the laboring person. And so that can be, but right before that happens, labor often feels like too much. And that's a short-lived period of time where labor feels like too much. And so if we can get through that first, this is too big, I don't want to do this moment, then the endorphins kick in, and oftentimes everything feels a little bit more doable. So that first kind of deer in the headlights shocking moment, we try to keep our clients home as long as they're low risk and they don't have any other issues. We try to keep our clients home during that, so that they can get back into that endorphin kind of haze, because then they'll be in active labor and they will be less likely to have one of those stalls that we see a lot of the time at a hospital when people show up to the hospital. So that would be something that we would during a prenatal visit, that you would really get a clearer picture of what that looks like, so that it is not so shocking when it happens, and you have a strategy in place to stay home for a little bit longer, to get yourself into that active labor. And then the doula can support your partner by providing a sense of calm and normalizing the ups and downs of normal labor, like I was saying, with the calm face and just kind of making sure that they're in the know. So yeah, so an empowered birth is the goal. We want you to feel heard and respected. While your doula can't guarantee an outcome, they can make sure all your decisions are well thought out with the best information possible at the time. We can't guarantee the outcome, right? So their birth might not go the way that you envisioned it, and grief is a normal outcome of that, but healthy processing of grief is actually a really wonderful skill to have, and is also possible to move through that grief. What we are trying to avoid, what I try to avoid as a doula, is to lower any sense of regret that you might have on the other side of, oh, I wish I had known, if only, if. And I don't want any of those. You can say, oh, we did everything we possibly could and it still didn't go exactly like the way that we wanted. But so there might be that grieving of the vision, but at least on the other side, you didn't say, if only I would have known that this carries this risk. And so that would be the vision of the doula on the other side. So yeah, so thank you so much. That is my presentation. Again, I am Katy Gladwin. These are all of the places in which I can be found. Feel free to email me at katygladwin.com. I am a birth doula over at sacredrootsservices.com. There's also I also have Facebook pages for all of these. I am a health coach over at katygladwin.com and a childbirth educator at Ipsy Arbor CBE, which stands for Childbirth Education. So look me up, ask any questions that you might have, and I would be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I think I am done with my presentation.
Thanks for joining Stay Home, Stay Connected for this interesting session with Katy Gladwin on the importance of doula care. And thank you, Katy, for sharing your expertise with us. Feel free to return back to this video at any time.